What if everything you've been told about your own body is a lie? What if you aren't a victim of your genetic code, destined to inherit the illnesses, the anxieties, and the limitations of your ancestors? For decades, mainstream science has locked us in a dogmatic prison. We've been taught that our DNA is the ultimate blueprint, an unchangeable script written at the moment of our conception. We were told that our genes dictate our health, our behavior, and our destiny. It's a paradigm called genetic determinism. And it leaves us feeling utterly powerless. But what if the key to unlocking your health, your happiness, and your true potential didn't live inside the double helix of your DNA? What if it lived in your mind? Pause, 2 seconds. Welcome to a journey that will fundamentally shatter your reality. Today, we are diving deep into a masterpiece of modern science and spirituality, The Biology of Belief by cellular biologist Dr. Bruce Lipton. Dr. Lipton didn't just stumble onto these ideas, he was a conventional medical school professor cloning stem cells when he made a discovery that turned the scientific world upside down. He realized that our cells are not controlled by their genes. They are controlled by their environment, and more importantly, by our perception of that environment. This is the birth of epigenetics, the science of how control is held above the genes. Over the next 3 hours, we are going to break down this revolutionary book chapter by chapter, concept by concept. You will learn how your thoughts turn into chemical signals, how your cell membranes act like liquid crystal computer chips, and how you can reprogram your subconscious mind to rewrite your biology. Get ready. By the end of this audio journey, you will never look at a single cell in your body the same way again. Beyond the microscope, the magic of stem cells. To understand how we became prisoners to our genes, we have to look at where Dr. Bruce Lipton's journey began, the laboratory. In the late 1960s and 70s, long before epigenetics was a buzzword, Lipton was working with stem cells. Now, what is a stem cell? Think of it as a biological blank slate. It is an embryonic cell that has the potential to become anything: a bone cell, a muscle cell, a skin cell, or a neuron. Lipton took a single stem cell, put it in a cultured dish, and let it divide. Every few hours, the cells doubled. Soon, he had thousands of genetically identical cells in a single dish. Then came the crucial experiment. He split these genetically identical cells into 3 separate culture dishes. In the first dish, he altered the chemical composition of the nutrient environment, the culture medium. The result? The cells turned into muscle. In the second dish, he changed the environment again. The result? The identical cells turned into bone. In the third dish, he modified the environment once more. The cells turned into fat cells. Tone shift, emphatic, mind blown. Stop and think about this for a moment. If all these cells had the exact same DNA, what controlled their fate? It wasn't the genes. The genes were identical across all 3 dishes. The only variable was the environment. This was Lipton's aha moment. The conventional medical establishment was teaching that genes control life. But in his lab, the environment controlled life. The implications were staggering. If your cells are healthy or sick, it isn't necessarily because of a bad gene. It is because of the culture medium they live in. And what is the culture medium of the human body? It's your blood. And what controls the chemical composition of your blood? Your brain, regulated by your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. The secret of the cell membrane, the true brain. For over a century, biology students have been taught that the nucleus of the cell, the place where DNA is stored, is the brain of the cell. It makes sense on the surface. If you remove the brain from an animal, it dies. Right? Well, scientists discovered that if you remove the nucleus from a cell, a process called enucleation, the cell doesn't die instantly. In fact, it keeps living. It swims around, digests food, avoids toxins, breathes, and interacts with other cells. It can live for weeks or even months without a nucleus. The only thing it can't do is reproduce or repair its parts. Therefore, the nucleus isn't the brain. It's the cell's gonads. It's the reproductive organ, a blueprint library. So, where is the actual brain of the cell? Dr. Lipton discovered that the true brain of the cell is its skin, the cell membrane. The membrane is a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. It is a phospholipid bilayer, but embedded within this layer are millions of tiny structures called integral membrane proteins, or IMPs. These proteins come in two primary types. Receptors, the cell sense organs, eyes, ears, nose, that monitor the environment outside the cell. Effectors, the physical gates and channels that translate external signals into internal actions. When a receptor protein picks up a signal from the environment, like a hormone, a nutrient, or an emotional chemical, it alerts the effector protein. The effector protein then opens up, sends a message into the cell, and tells the DNA which gene to read. The cell membrane is a literal liquid crystal computer chip. The receptors are the input, and the effectors are the output. Your genes are just programs waiting to be run by the operator. And who is the operator? You are. Quantum physics meets biology. To truly understand the biology of belief, we have to look at the massive divide between two sciences, Newtonian physics and quantum physics. Conventional medicine is stuck in the world of Isaac Newton. It views the human body as a physical machine made of cogs, gears, and chemical plumbing. If a machine breaks down, you fix it with physical interventions, drugs or surgery. But in 1925, quantum physics proved that the physical universe isn't actually physical at all. When you zoom in on an atom, you don't find tiny billiard balls orbiting a nucleus. You find nothing but empty space and swirling vortexes of energy. As quantum physicists realized, everything is energy. Matter is an illusion. Yet, modern medicine completely ignores this. They treat the body purely as chemistry. Dr. Lipton points out a critical flaw in this approach. When you take a pharmaceutical drug, that chemical enters your bloodstream and interacts not just with the diseased organ, but with every cell in your body. This causes massive, unintended side effects. Quantum physics, however, reveals that energy signals are thousands of times more efficient at broadcasting information than physical chemicals. Every molecule, every cell, and every organ emits a specific vibrational frequency. When you feel love, gratitude, or peace, your brain releases a harmonic frequency that balances your biology. When you feel fear, anger, or resentment, you create a discordant frequency that disrupts cellular harmony. We are not just chemical vessels, we are energetic broadcast towers. Your thoughts are waves of energy that can literally activate or deactivate genes. The tale of two minds, conscious versus subconscious. Now, let's address the ultimate question: if our thoughts and beliefs control our biology, why can't we just think our way out of cancer, poverty, or chronic stress? Why can't we just say, "I am healthy," and instantly heal? To answer this, we have to look at the dual architecture of the human mind. We don't have just one mind, we have two. Look at those numbers. The subconscious mind is 1 million times more powerful at processing information than the conscious mind. When you decide you want to lose weight, find love, or get healthy, that is an aspiration of your conscious mind. But your conscious mind is only running the show about 5% of the day. The other 95% of the time, your conscious mind is daydreaming, thinking about the future, or dwelling on the past. When your conscious mind wanders, your subconscious mind steps in and autoplays its recorded programs. Where did those programs come from? From the last trimester of your mother's pregnancy up until you were 7 years old, your brain operated primarily in a theta brainwave state. Theta is hypnosis. As a child, you didn't have a critical, analytical mind. You were a walking tape recorder, absorbing every word, every argument, every limitation, and every behavior of your parents, your teachers, and your community. If your parents constantly said, "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "You're a sickly child," or "Life is a struggle," those phrases were downloaded directly into your subconscious database as absolute truths. Now, as an adult, you are trying to change your life with positive thinking. But your 5% conscious mind is fighting a brutal war against 95% of hardwired, negative subconscious programming. It's like trying to run a modern, high-tech software program on a 40-year-old computer operating system. It simply crashes. Growth versus protection, the cellular choice. At any given millisecond, a cell has a choice. It can be in one of two states, growth or protection. It cannot be in both at the same time. Growth means opening up to the environment, absorbing nutrients, replicating, repairing tissue, and thriving. Protection means shutting down, closing off the borders, and preparing to fight or flee from a threat. In a human being, this balance is managed by the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (HPA) axis. When your ancestors encountered a saber-toothed tiger, the HPA axis kicked into overdrive. The brain perceived stress. It released stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones diverted all the energy away from the immune system, away from visceral growth organs, and forced all that blood into the arms and legs so the human could run away. Crucially, stress hormones also shut down the prefrontal cortex, the logical part of the brain, and shifted control to the primitive hindbrain for rapid reflexes. In short, stress makes you less intelligent and completely shuts down your immune system. This system worked perfectly when stress lasted for 10 minutes. You either escaped the tiger or you became lunch. Tone shift, serious, urgent. But fast forward to the 21st century. The tigers are no longer wild beasts. The tigers are your unpaid bills, a toxic boss, an unhappy marriage, or constant negative news feeds. Because our subconscious minds perceive these situations as ongoing threats, our HPA axis is constantly turned on. We are living in a chronic state of low-grade survival protection. When you are in protection mode, your body stopped repairing itself. Your immune system shuts down. Your cells cannot grow. Over time, this chronic energy drain results in what we call disease. Disease is not a genetic defect, it is the physical consequence of a body trapped in perpetual protection mode. The placebo and nocebo effects. Medical science has long acknowledged a phenomenon that they try very hard to sweep under the rug, the placebo effect. We all know how it works. A patient with a severe illness is given a sugar pill but told it's a revolutionary new drug. Believing they are receiving medicine, their brain changes the internal chemistry, shifts the body into growth mode, and they heal. The placebo effect proves that your expectation of healing is more powerful than the physical drug itself. Dr. Lipton shares the astonishing story of Dr. Bruce Moseley, an orthopedic surgeon who conducted a study on arthritic knee pain. He split his patients into groups. One group received standard knee surgery. The other group received sham surgery. He cut 3 tiny incisions in their skin, talked as if he were operating, splashed water to mimic the sound of surgery, and stitched them back up without touching a thing inside. The result? The patients who received the fake surgery healed just as fast, felt just as much pain relief, and recovered their mobility just as well as those who had the actual surgery. Their belief healed their knees. Tone shift, darker, cautionary. But there is a dark side to this coin that medicine rarely talks about. It is called the nocebo effect. If a positive belief can heal you, a negative belief can literally kill you. Consider the well-documented medical case of a man diagnosed with terminal cancer and given 3 months to live. He withered away, lost weight, suffered immensely, and died precisely on schedule. But when an autopsy was performed, the doctors made a horrifying discovery: the man had barely any cancer in his body. He didn't die of cancer. He died because he believed he was going to die. The diagnosis was a death sentence delivered by an authority figure, and his subconscious mind executed the command flawlessly. Your mind is a chemical factory. If you believe the world is full of viruses, danger, and sickness. Epigenetics in action, rewriting your genetic code. Let's look under the hood to understand exactly how your thoughts physically alter your genes. This is the heart of epigenetics. Imagine your DNA as a massive cookbook of recipes. When a chef wants to make a dish, they open the book, read the recipe, and create it. The book itself doesn't do anything, it's a passive blueprint. In your body, your DNA double helix is wrapped in a protective sleeve of proteins called histones. Think of these histones like a sleeve covering a jacket sleeve. As long as the gene is covered by the sleeve, it cannot be read. It is silent. When an environmental signal hits the cell membrane, it activates a mechanism that alters the electrical charge of the histone sleeve. The sleeve peels back, exposing the gene. Only then can the cell read the blueprint and create a protein. But here is the kicker: a single gene blueprint can be read in over 30,000 different ways depending on the environmental signal. You are not born with a set destiny. You are born with a vast deck of cards, and your lifestyle, your diet, your environment, and your thoughts decide which cards are flipped over. You can inherit a gene for a specific disease, but if you live a life of peace, balance, and joy, that gene may remain covered by its histone sleeve for your entire life, never expressing itself. You are the master of your blueprint, not its servant. Conscious parenting, the blueprint of the next generation. One of the most profound chapters in the biology of belief deals with how this science applies to the creation of new life, conscious parenting. For a long time, society believed that a fetus in a mother's womb was completely isolated from the outside world. The mother was viewed simply as a biological incubator that provided nutrients. We now know this is a massive, dangerous misconception. The chemical mix of the mother's blood passes directly through the placenta into the developing child. If a pregnant mother is trapped in a toxic relationship, stressed about money, or living in fear, her body is constantly flooding her system with stress hormones. These hormones pass straight into the fetus. The developing child doesn't just receive nutrients, it receives a profound environmental report card. It learns whether the world outside is a safe, loving place of growth, or a terrifying, hostile place of protection. If the fetus is constantly exposed to stress hormones, its brain adjusts to prioritize survival reflexes over long-term cognitive development. But this responsibility doesn't fall solely on the mother. The father's emotional support, his presence, and the environment he creates for the mother directly influence her blood chemistry, which in turn influences the child. Even before conception, the health, thoughts, and lifestyles of both parents alter the epigenetic tags on their sperm and egg cells. We are actively shaping the emotional and biological baseline of our children long before they take their first breath. How to reprogram your subconscious mind? If you have made it this far, you are probably asking the ultimate question: how do I change the program? How do I get rid of the limitations in my 95% subconscious mind and install a new operating system? Dr. Lipton emphasizes that you cannot simply talk to your subconscious mind like a friend. It doesn't have a conscious entity inside it. It is an information playback mechanism. If you get angry and yell at your tape player, the song playing won't change. You have to press the record button. There are 3 primary, scientifically proven ways to reprogram the subconscious mind. 1. Hypnosis, the theta state. Every night when you go to bed, and every morning right as you wake up, your brain waves drop out of the active beta state, pass through alpha, and enter theta. This is the exact state you were in during the first 7 years of your life. To utilize this, use self-hypnosis audio or positive affirmations playing in your ears as you fall asleep. When your conscious mind drifts off to sleep, the subconscious door swings wide open, and the audio downloads directly into the system. 2. Repetition and habituation. How did you learn your times tables as a child? How did you learn to drive a car? Through relentless repetition. You practiced over and over until the conscious effort became an automatic subconscious habit. If you want to install a new belief, you must practice it daily, consistently, through your actions. You cannot just say an affirmation once and expect results. You must live it until it becomes a reflex. 3. Energy psychology. Dr. Lipton highlights a modern breakthrough called energy psychology. This includes techniques like PSYCHK, emotional freedom techniques, EFT, tapping, and EMDR. These modalities use the body's meridian systems and whole brain integration postures to trigger a superlearning state. They allow you to rewrite deep-seated traumatic memories or limiting beliefs in a matter of minutes rather than years. Spirit and Science, the New Evolution. In the final chapters of the book, Dr. Lipton takes us out of the microscope and into the cosmos. He bridges the final gap, the divide between science and spirituality. For centuries, materialist science has claimed that consciousness is just an accidental byproduct of chemical reactions in our brains. They say that when the body dies, the self vanishes completely. But Lipton's work with cell membranes completely refutes this. Remember, each cell has thousands of receptor proteins on its outer skin. Among these are a specialized set of receptors called self-receptors. No two human beings have the exact same set of self-receptors. They are your biological identity tags. Think of your body like a television set. Your self-receptors are the television antenna. The broadcast signal, your consciousness, your soul, your unique energy signature, is coming from the outside environment. If your television set breaks down, does the broadcast stop existing? No. The broadcast is still in the air. If a new television set is built with the exact same antenna configuration, that same show will play again. Tone shift, deep, moving. This is a stunning scientific validation of the immortal soul. We are not our physical bodies. We are the broadcast playing through these temporary flesh and bone receivers. When we realize this, the fear of death dissolves. We understand that we are interconnected parts of a massive, living organism called the Earth. The conclusion: awakening your inner master. We have come to the end of our journey through the biology of belief. Let's recap the revolutionary truth you now hold in your hands. You are not a victim of your genetic code. Your genes are merely blueprints waiting for instructions. Your cell membrane is the true brain, translating the outside world into cellular reality. Your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are powerful energetic broadcasts that rewrite your blood chemistry every single second. You are running on a 95% subconscious program downloaded from childhood, but you have the tools to reprogram that machine. The choice is yours. Will you remain a victim of circumstances, letting your old, downloaded programs dictate your health, your wealth, and your joy? Or will you step into your true power as a conscious co-creator of your biology? Shift your environment. Guard your thoughts. Reprogram your mind. Open your cells up to growth, turn off the protection mechanism, and start living the life you were designed to live. Tone shift, warm, gentle, final. Thank you for embarking on this transformative journey with us. Keep your frequency high, believe in your magnificent design, and remember, your mind is the ultimate architect of your reality. The Microscopic City, Understanding Cellular Sociology. To truly understand the magnitude of what Dr. Bruce Lipton is teaching, we have to scale down. Way down. Let's shrink ourselves down to the size of a micrometer and step inside the human body. We often look in the mirror and see a single entity. We say, I am an individual. But under the microscope, that reality completely dissolves. You are not a single organism. You are a bustling, thriving, hypercomplex metropolis of over 50 trillion individual living cells. Let that number sink in. 50 trillion. Each one of these cells is a sentient being. Each cell has its own digestive system, respiratory system, excretory system, nervous system, and reproductive capabilities. A cell can live independently outside of your body if placed in a nutrient-rich culture medium. So, what is a human being? A human being is a cooperative community of trillions of individual citizens working in absolute harmony. In any successful society, there must be a central governing voice. If 50 trillion citizens all decided to do whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, the society would collapse into anarchy within seconds. This is what happens in conditions like autoimmune disorders or cancer. The communication network breaks down, and cells begin acting independently of the community's collective interest. To prevent this, evolution created a centralized coordinator, the nervous system, governed by the brain. When your brain perceives a threat, it doesn't just keep that information to itself. It broadcasts a chemical memo to the entire cellular population. If the mind perceives scarcity, fear, or hostility, it sends out a corporate-wide notice telling every single cell to pull back from production, stop building, and divert resources to the defense sectors. You are the prime minister of this vast microscopic empire. Every thought you think is a policy directive. Every emotion you feel is an economic shift. The fatal flaw of medical dogma. Let's confront the elephant in the room. Modern Western medicine is facing a massive systemic crisis. Despite multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industries, advanced diagnostic tools, and state-of-the-art hospitals, chronic illness, autoimmune diseases, and mental health crises are skyrocketing globally. Why? Because modern medical science is built on a foundational premise that is fundamentally, provably wrong. That premise is medical materialism, inherited from the 17th century philosopher René Descartes. Descartes separated the mind from the body, stating that the physical body is a machine made of matter, completely separate from the invisible, unmeasurable realm of thoughts and spirit. Medical schools took this concept and ran with it. They taught doctors to view the human body through the lens of a Newtonian assembly line. If a patient presents with depression, it's a chemical imbalance in the brain, so give them a physical pill to alter the chemistry. If a patient has high blood pressure, give them a physical drug to artificially dilate the blood vessels. Treating the body with physical chemistry while ignoring the mind is like trying to fix a software bug by hitting the computer monitor with a wrench. This approach treats symptoms while completely ignoring the underlying cause. Dr. Lipton reveals that less than 5% of all diseases are caused by defective genetics. The remaining 95% are a direct consequence of environmental stress, lifestyle choices, and toxic subconscious programming. Consider the pharmaceutical industry's own clinical drug trials. When a new drug is tested, it must be measured against a control group taking a placebo. In almost every single study, a significant portion of the placebo group heals completely. The primordial soup and the birth of expression. To fully appreciate how our minds hold power over our biology, we must look backward into the deep history of life on Earth. How did we get here? How did a collection of amino acids in a primordial sea evolve into a creature capable of thinking, feeling, and writing poetry? In the early days of evolutionary biology, John Baptiste Lamarck proposed a theory that was widely ridiculed by his peers, including those who favored Charles Darwin. Lamarck argued that organisms adapt to their environments throughout their lifetimes and pass those physical adaptations down to their offspring. Darwinism, on the other hand, insisted that evolution is a game of blind luck. Random genetic mutations occur, and the environment naturally selects the fittest survivors. This survival of the fittest mentality painted a picture of a cruel, competitive world where we are at the mercy of accidental genetic mutations. Dr. Lipton's discoveries in epigenetics have completely vindicated Lamarck. Cells do not wait around millions of years for a random mutation to save them from a changing environment. They are highly responsive, intelligent systems. When an organism is exposed to a new environmental stressor, such as increased temperature or a new toxin, the cell membrane immediately detects it. It sends an urgent signal to the nucleus, causing the regulatory proteins to open specific genes, modifying the cell's structure and behavior in real time. This means that evolution is not a slow, mechanical accident. It is an active, dynamic, and conscious dialogue between the organism and its surroundings. You are not an evolutionary fluke destined to break down based on a bad roll of the genetic dice. You are equipped with a highly adaptive, state-of-the-art biological engine designed to modify itself based on the world you choose to perceive. The mechanics of perception, how light becomes matter. Let us pull back the curtain on the exact physical mechanism that transforms an invisible thought into a physical molecule inside your body. How does light, or energy, become matter? It all starts at the surface of your cell membrane, with those incredible structures we discussed earlier, the integral membrane proteins, IMPs. Imagine these proteins as tiny, microscopic antennae protruding from the surface of the cell. They are waiting for a very specific broadcast frequency. This frequency could be a physical molecule, like an insulin hormone, or it could be an energetic wave, like an electromagnetic field or an emotional vibration. When the receptor antenna receives its matching frequency, it undergoes a literal conformational change. This means the physical shape of the protein shifts, much like a key turning inside a lock. This structural shift triggers the effector protein on the inside of the cell. The effector protein acts like an internal messenger, releasing a molecule called a secondary messenger. This secondary messenger travels straight into the heart of the cell, the nucleus. Once inside the nucleus, this messenger molecule approaches the chromosome. It interacts with the protective protein sleeve, changing its electrical charge. The sleeve unzips, exposing the precise gene blueprint required to handle the outside signal. If the outside signal was a stress hormone triggered by an angry thought, the cell exposes a gene that creates inflammatory proteins, bracing for impact. If the outside signal was endorphins triggered by a deep laugh or an act of love, the cell exposes a gene that creates growth factors, building tissue and strengthening immunity. Your thoughts are not hidden away safely in your skull. They are actively translated into physical protein movements inside every single tissue of your body, thousands of times a minute. Energy medicine, the unseen pharmacy. If everything is energy, as quantum physics dictates, then why is the medical world still relying almost exclusively on chemical drugs? Dr. Lipton presents a startling truth: chemical healing is inherently inefficient. When a drug is manufactured in a lab, it is designed to fit into a cellular receptor like a key into a lock. But chemicals must travel through the physical medium of the body. They have to be swallowed, digested, absorbed into the blood, and pumped through the circulatory system. By the time the drug reaches its target organ, it has also bound to millions of other unintended cell receptors throughout the body, causing massive, systemic damage. This is why drug commercials spend half their time listing horrifying side effects, ranging from liver failure to sudden death. Now, let's contrast this with energy medicine. Every chemical compound has an electromagnetic signature. Quantum physics shows that you don't need to introduce the physical chemical to change a cell's behavior. you can simply introduce the vibrational frequency of that chemical. Think of a glass of water. If you want to melt ice, you can physically add hot water to it, chemical intervention, which changes the whole mixture. Or, you can apply a microwave frequency directly to the water molecules, causing them to vibrate and heat up instantly without adding any physical substance. This is the foundation of modalities like acupuncture, sound therapy, homeopathic resonance, and hands-on energy healing. When a practitioner channels energy or applies a harmonic frequency to your biofield, they are communicating directly with your cell membrane receptors at the speed of light, completely bypassing the messy, toxic pathways of physical digestion. The invisible prison of the subconscious trap. Let us return to the great paradox of human life. Why do we sabotage ourselves? Why do we stay in toxic relationships, repeat financial mistakes, and fall back into the same unhealthy physical patterns, even when we know better? The answer lies in the incredible design of the subconscious mind. We must realize that the subconscious mind is not malicious. It doesn't hate you. It has no ego, no sense of morality, and no concept of right or wrong. It is a literal supercomputer playback device. If you record a terrible, screeching song onto a tape recorder, the machine doesn't think, "Wow, this music is awful, I shouldn't play it." It simply stores the data. When you hit play, it plays the screeching song with absolute precision. During your childhood, the first 7 years, your brain was running on autopilot, recording everything it saw. If you watched your parents constantly fight about money, your subconscious recorded the program. Money causes conflict and pain. Now, jump forward 30 years. Your conscious mind wants to be wealthy. You read books, you go to seminars, you make business plans. But as soon as you start making money, your subconscious mind detects an anomaly. It looks at its hardwired operating program which says, money causes pain. To protect you from pain, the subconscious mind subtly, silently takes the wheel while your conscious mind is daydreaming. It makes you forget an important meeting. It makes you spend impulsively. It makes you make a terrible investment decision. And what do we do when this happens? We throw our hands up in the air and say, "I just have bad luck. The universe is against me." Tone shift, deep, piercing. The universe isn't against you. Your own automated cockpit is flying you into the ground because you are letting a 7-year-old child's downloaded program fly a commercial airliner. Until you walk into the cockpit, take the controls. The chemistry of fear, breaking the HPA axis. Let's dismantle the biology of fear. When you experience chronic stress, your body activates the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal (HPA) axis. Let's trace the chemical cascade of this survival mechanism so you can see exactly how it erodes your physical health. The moment your eyes or ears pick up a stressful stimulus, whether it's a hostile email from your boss or a memory of a past trauma, the signal is sent to the amygdala, the alarm center of the brain. The amygdala instantly alerts the hypothalamus, which releases corticotropin-releasing hormone, CRH. This chemical messenger travels to the pituitary gland, the master gland, telling it that an emergency has occurred. The pituitary gland then releases adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH, into the bloodstream, which travels down to the adrenal gland sitting on top of your kidneys. The adrenal glands instantly unleash a tidal wave of cortisol and adrenaline into your system. Look at what these chemicals physically do to your body. They constrict the blood vessels of your digestive tract and internal visceral organs, forcing all the blood out into your extremities, your arms and legs, so you can fight or run. They actively suppress your immune system. In fact, medical science uses cortisol therapeutically for organ transplant patients. They give them massive doses of cortisol to intentionally shut down their immune system so their bodies won't reject the foreign organ. They shut off the blood flow to your prefrontal cortex, shifting all cognitive function to the primitive brainstem for raw reflex actions. If you live under chronic stress, your internal organs are constantly starved of nutrient-rich blood. Your immune system is intentionally turned off. Your higher analytical intelligence is suppressed. You are living as a biological caveman in a high-tech world, completely destroying your body's ability to regenerate. The epigenetic clock, reversing cellular aging. For decades, we've believed that aging is an inevitable, downhill physical slide. We watch our cells decay, our skin wrinkle, and our energy fade, believing that our biological clock is ticking away towards zero, controlled by our predetermined genetic destiny. But epigenetics brings us a message of incredible hope. Your biological age is not the same as your chronological age. At the ends of your chromosomes are repetitive sequences of DNA called telomeres. Think of telomeres like the plastic tips on the ends of your shoelaces. They prevent the chromosome from unraveling and degrading during cell division. Every time a cell divides, the telomeres get a little bit shorter. When they become too short, the cell can no longer divide, and it enters a state of senescence, cellular old age. For a long time, it was believed that telomere shortening was a one-way street. But science discovered an enzyme called telomerase, a literal cellular fountain of youth that can rebuild and lengthen telomeres, extending the lifespan of your cells indefinitely. And what activates telomerase? Comprehensive scientific studies have shown that lifestyle changes, deep meditation, social support, and life-affirming beliefs drastically increase telomerase activity. When you shift your mindset from a state of fear and survival to a state of love, connection, and purpose, your brain stops producing stress chemicals and begins secreting a cocktail of youth, growth hormone, oxytocin, and dopamine. This chemical environment signals the cell membranes to activate the telomerase enzyme. Your cells begin to repair their own shoelaces. You literally begin to turn back the epigenetic clock, rejuvenating your tissues from the inside out. Aging is not the ticking of a clock, it is the accumulation of environmental signals. Change the signals, and you change the timeline. The matrix of maternity, conscious conception. Let's step further into the sacred science of bringing new life into this world. Dr. Lipton emphasizes that conscious parenting doesn't begin when a child is born, or even at the midpoint of pregnancy. It begins at the moment of conception. When an egg and a sperm meet, they do not just bring a fixed, unalterable package of genetic material to the table. Both the sperm and the egg are wrapped in their own complex layers of epigenetic tags, heavily influenced by the health, environment, and emotional states of the parents in the months leading up to conception. If a mother and father are living in harmony, eating nutrient-dense food, and feeling deeply connected, their germ cells are coded with signals of safety, abundance, and resilience. Conversely, if conception happens in an environment of high anxiety, alcohol abuse, or emotional coldness, those cellular blueprints carry a distinct biological warning label into the womb. Once the embryo implants in the uterine wall, the mother's blood becomes the environment that shapes the child's developing nervous system. If the mother is constantly anxious, the baby's brain is bathed in stress hormones, hardwiring its nervous system to be hypervigilant and easily startled. The child is being prepared for a war zone before it has even seen the light of day. This is not meant to induce guilt or blame in parents, but rather to awaken us to the profound creative power we possess. When we treat pregnancy not just as a mechanical medical event, but as a conscious, sacred period of environmental stewardship, we give our children the ultimate gift, a biological foundation rooted in love, safety, and limitless potential. The practical blueprint and master techniques of the supermind. Let's get practical. You understand the science. You know that your thoughts alter your blood chemistry, which alters your gene expression. Now, let's build your daily operational blueprint for reprogramming your 95% subconscious operating system. If you want to step out of the matrix of limitation, you must actively apply the 3 pillars of reprogramming every single day. Pillar 1, the Twilight Download. Do not fall asleep scrolling through negative news feeds or watching violent, high-intensity television shows. When you do this, you are feeding toxic programming directly into your open theta brainwave state as your conscious mind goes to sleep. Instead, create a sacred bedtime ritual. As your eyelids get heavy, put on headphones and play high-vibrational self-hypnosis audios, profound affirmations, or calming soundscapes infused with intentions of health and abundance. Let these frequencies print onto your open subconscious hard drive all night long. Pillar 2, the art of behavioral rehearsal. You cannot rewrite a subconscious program by simply thinking about it once. You must build new neural pathways through relentless behavioral repetition. If you have a subconscious program of low self-worth that manifests as people-pleasing, you must consciously practice saying no. The first time you do it, your heart will race, your adrenaline will spike, and your old program will scream at you to comply. Do it anyway. Practice it again tomorrow. Repeat it until the new behavior becomes an automatic, effortless subconscious circuit. Pillar 3, cellular alignment modalities. Investigate and utilize the tools of energy psychology. Techniques like PSYCHK, emotional freedom techniques, EFT tapping, and EMDR bypass the logical mind completely. By tapping on specific meridian points or adopting whole-brain cross-lateral postures. The connected cosmos, beyond the isolation illusion. We live in a society that prides itself on individualism, hyper-independence, and competition. We are taught to look at others as rivals for limited resources, fighting to survive in a cold, uncaring universe. But Dr. Bruce Lipton's work brings us to a profound, undeniable scientific realization: separation is an absolute illusion. Let's look at how cells evolved. For billions of years, only single-celled organisms existed on Earth. But eventually, single cells hit an evolutionary ceiling. A single cell can only have so many receptors on its membrane before it runs out of physical surface area. It can only process a finite amount of information. To expand their awareness and intelligence, individual cells did something miraculous: they stopped competing and started cooperating. They joined together to form multicellular organisms. By pooling their receptors together, they created a massive, collective intelligence capable of sensing and navigating complex environments. We, as human beings, are not the final destination of evolution. We are simply individual cells inside a much larger living organism, humanity itself. When we hurt another person, when we pollute our oceans, when we wage war, we are acting like an autoimmune disease inside our own global body. We are cells attacking other cells of the same organism. True evolution requires us to move past the Darwinian illusion of survival of the fittest and step into the quantum truth of absolute interconnection. We are all bound together in a field of universal energy. What you do to the matrix, you do to yourself. What you give to the community, you give to your own biology. The global awakening, designing heaven on earth. We stand at a critical crossroads in human history. The old systems, built on fear, competition, materialism, and genetic determinism, are visibly fracturing all around us. The old medical models are breaking down, and old societal structures are proving unsustainable. But this collapse is not something to fear. It is the necessary labor pains of a new world being born. Dr. Lipton's The Biology of Belief is more than a book on cellular biology. It is a manifesto for a global spiritual revolution. It is an invitation to step out of the victim archetype and claim your birthright as a master of your own reality. Imagine a world where children are conceived consciously, nurtured in wombs filled with love, security, and chemical peace. Imagine a world where medicine treats the whole person, mind, body, and spirit, using harmonic energy frequencies to heal without side effects. Imagine a world where humanity realizes its collective identity, operating as a unified cooperative matrix rather than a fractured battlefield. This world is not a utopian pipe dream. It is a biological reality waiting to be expressed. And it starts with the person listening to this audio right now. Every time you choose love over fear, every time you pause to reprogram a limiting belief, every time you treat your body as a sacred temple of energy, you are changing the collective field. You are updating the human software. You are flipping the epigenetic switch for all of humanity. The final transmission, step into your power. As we close this comprehensive audio journey, let these final words settle into the deepest spaces of your subconscious mind. You are not a biological accident. You are not a fragile machine doomed to decay under the weight of hereditary illness. You are a magnificent, 5 trillion cell symphony of light, energy, and infinite creative potential. Your DNA is a library of possibilities, and your mind is the ultimate author. From this moment forward, look at the world with new eyes. Guard your thoughts as the sacred blueprints they are. Speak to your body with love, gratitude, and reverence. Treat your mind as an exquisite garden, pulling out the weeds of old, childhood limitations and planting the seeds of your grandest desires. The old paradigm is gone. The prison doors are wide open. You hold the keys to your biology, your destiny, and your life. Tone shift, warm, gentle, lingering smile. Step out into the light, trust your magnificent design, and live the life you were born to create. Thank you for walking this revolutionary path with us. Peace, love, and cellular harmony be with you always. The Social Matrix, Fractals of the Human Consciousness. To understand the ultimate trajectory of Dr. Bruce Lipton's work, we must step outside of the individual human body and look at the structure of the entire universe. Evolution is not random, it follows a precise mathematical pattern. In physics and geometry, we call this a fractal. A fractal is a never-ending pattern where the part looks exactly like the whole. If you look at a single crystal of a snowflake, its structure mimics the structure of the entire snowflake. If you look at the branches of a tree, they mimic the structure of the grand canopy, and nature uses the exact same organizing principles over and over again, scaling them up from the microscopic to the cosmic. Just as the organelles inside a cell pooled their intelligence to create a cell, and cells pooled their intelligence to create a human being, we, as individual human beings, are currently being pushed by evolution to pool our consciousness to create the next level of planetary organization. We are the cells of a larger organism called Gaia, the living Earth. When you look at human history through this lens, the chaos, the political upheavals, and the systemic crises of our modern era take on a completely different meaning. We are not experiencing the end of the world, we are experiencing the messy, high-friction transition from a collection of isolated, competitive individuals into a highly integrated, cooperative global family. Every time you choose to resolve an internal conflict, every time you step away from the dogmatic belief that you are separate from nature, you are actively aligning with the natural evolutionary drive of the universe. You are updating your cellular code to survive the shift into a higher state of collective human consciousness. The matrix of nourishment, epigenetics, and the soil. Let's look at a critical, real-world application of epigenetics that directly impacts the daily chemistry of your blood, the food we eat, and the soil it grows in. Conventional, materialist agriculture treats the soil like an empty, inert dirt container. It assumes that as long as you pump the dirt full of chemical fertilizers, like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and spray it with synthetic pesticides, plants will grow, and humans will be fed. This chemical mindset mirrors the pharmaceutical approach to the human body. But epigenetics reveals that a plant, just like a human cell, is entirely controlled by its environment. Healthy soil is not dead dirt, it is a hypercomplex, living ecosystem teeming with billions of microscopic bacteria, fungi, and earthworms. This is the soil microbiome. These microorganisms form a cooperative, symbiotic relationship with the roots of the plant. They break down minerals, synthesize vitamins, and create a rich chemical environment that tells the plant's genes to express maximum vitality, flavor, and immune resilience. When we consume a plant grown in living, organic soil, we don't just absorb raw calories, we absorb a complex web of environmental data, epigenetic signals that instruct our cell membranes to open up to growth and vitality. When we eat food that is genetically modified, sprayed with glyphosate, and grown in depleted, dead soil, we are flooding our bloodstreams with signals of chemical distress. The cell receptors pick up these toxic frequencies, change their conformation, and tell our DNA to activate inflammatory protection pathways. True healing requires us to realize that we cannot build a vibrant, high-frequency human body using low-frequency, chemically compromised fuel. To change your biology, you must honor the environment that feeds you. The ripple effect of your personal biofield. We have established that your thoughts generate specific electromagnetic frequencies. But let's look at how far these frequencies actually travel. Do they stay trapped within the bone boundaries of your skull? Modern physics says absolutely not. Devices like the magnetoencephalograph, MEG, can measure the magnetic fields generated by your brain's electrical activity from outside your head. Your mind does not exist solely inside your skull, it is actively broadcasting an energetic field that extends several feet away from your physical body. This is your biofield. Think of a pebble dropped into a calm, glassy pond. The moment the pebble hits the surface, it creates concentric ripples that expand across the entire body of water. Your thoughts are those pebbles. When you walk into a room holding a deep, subconscious frequency of anger, anxiety, or resentment, you don't even have to speak a single word for people to feel it. Their cell receptors pick up your discordant environmental frequency instantly. Their bodies shift subtly into a protective, defensive posture. Conversely, when you actively cultivate a biofield of love, appreciation, and unshakable peace, your harmonic ripples broadcast outward, offering an energetic alignment to every person you pass. You become a walking, talking pharmacy of collective healing. You are never a helpless observer in a room, you are an active broadcaster altering the energetic environment of everyone around you. By mastering your inner world, you fundamentally transform your outer universe. The absolute sovereignty of the awakened self. Let's strip away the fluff and look at the ultimate truth of the biology of belief. This science is not a gentle suggestion, it is an absolute declaration of personal sovereignty. For thousands of years, humanity has been conditioned to look outside of itself for salvation. We've been told to surrender our power to authorities, to religious systems, to political leaders, and to medical institutions that profit off our perpetual sickness and insecurity. We've been trained to believe that we are fragile, sinful, or genetically flawed creatures who need external intervention to survive. Epigenetics shatters this entire illusion of dependency. When you realize that your cell membrane is an intelligent computer chip, that your thoughts write the code, and that your DNA is a passive library of limitless potential, the old structures of control completely lose their power over you. You realize that you are not a patient waiting to be cured, you are a creator waiting to awaken. You no longer look at a medical diagnosis as a permanent death sentence. You look at it as a biological wake-up call, a clear piece of data telling you that your current cultural medium, your thoughts, or your environment needs an immediate upgrade. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and you start asking, "What program am I running that is creating this physical printout, and how can I rewrite the code?" This is the shift from victimhood to total biological mastery. It requires courage. It requires you to stop blaming your parents, your genes, and your circumstances, and to take absolute responsibility for the mental environment you maintain inside your mind. You are the sovereign ruler of your 50 trillion cell empire. Act like it. The grand finale, the symphony of the new biology. We have come to the absolute peak of our journey through the revolutionary landscape of Dr. Bruce Lipton's work. We have dismantled the old, dead matrix of genetic determinism. We have peered beneath the surface of the cell membrane to find the liquid crystal brain of life. We have bridged the ancient chasm between the cold calculations of science and the eternal truths of spirituality. The master blueprint is now fully yours to command. As you step forward out of this audio experience and back into the flow of your daily life, remember the magnificent truths you have integrated. You are a vibrant, cooperative community of 50 trillion conscious beings looking to you for leadership. Your thoughts are physical commands that rewrite your blood chemistry and reshape your genetic expression at the speed of light. You possess the precise tools of twilight downloads, habituation, and energy psychology needed to break the chains of childhood programming. You are an immortal broadcast playing through a beautifully designed, temporary flesh and bone receiver. Do not play small in a world that is desperately screaming for your light. Stop living in the survival shelter of protection, throw open the gates of your cellular architecture, and step fully into a life of unrestricted, radiant growth. Thank you so much for investing your time and energy into this master summary script of the Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. If this deep dive into the revolution of epigenetics sparked a change in your perspective, remember that this is just the beginning of your journey toward mastering your subconscious mind and unlocking your true potential. On this channel, we are dedicated exclusively to creating comprehensive, high-quality audio scripts and deep summaries of the most powerful non-fiction and self-improvement literature in the world. Our mission is to provide lifelong learners like you with the practical tools, scientific insights, and mindset shifts needed to break free from old programming and design your reality. Pause 1 second. If you found value in today's presentation, subscribe to the channel to join our growing community of lifelong learners. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upcoming book masterclass. Drop a comment below sharing the single biggest aha moment or belief shift you experienced during this script. The cells of your body are listening to every policy directive you give them. Keep your environment rich, keep your thoughts high frequency, and keep learning. Until next time, stay conscious, stay sovereign, and keep growing.